Princess Anne just did the one thing Diana begged her to do before she died. In her final days, Diana pulled Anne close, looked her directly in the eyes, and said just two words that Anne never forgot. "Save him." Those two words carried the weight of a mother who already knew she was running out of time, and they landed inside Anne like something permanent. Diana had confessed things about Harry that she had carried completely alone for years. Secrets so heavy and so raw that Anne sat on them in silence, unable to find the right moment to release them. That moment has now arrived, and nothing will ever be the same again. The phone rang at Harry's house in California on one of those days where everything felt like too much. The press was everywhere. The stories about his marriage and his exit from the royal family were relentless, and there was absolutely nothing he could do about any of it. He almost did not pick up, but something made him reach for that phone. He heard Anne's voice and something shifted immediately inside his chest. "Harry, we need to talk," she said, direct, steady, no small talk. "I have been holding something for you for a very long time, and you will need to be strong for this." Harry's heart raced as he managed to say yes, not knowing that the next few minutes would completely reframe his entire life. What Anne told him hit Harry like something physical. There was a truth Diana had carried to her grave, something that had been killing her every single day in her final years. It all began after the divorce, inside the walls of Kensington Palace, when Diana was drowning and the institution had completely turned its back on her. In the middle of all that darkness, Diana had leaned on Harry, her youngest, her boy. She let him sit beside her in the evenings when she could not hold herself together. She let him climb into her lap when the crying came. She let a child who was barely old enough to understand what divorce meant become the person who held her together when no one else could. Diana went to her grave believing she had broken something in him because of it. She had rehearsed the words 1,000 times. She wanted to sit across from him, take his hands, look him in the eye and say, "That was never your burden. You were my child. I was supposed to hold you together, not the other way around." But she never found the right moment, and then the tunnel in Paris happened, and there were no moments left. As Anne spoke, Harry remembered every single one of those evenings with perfect clarity. He remembered Diana pulling him hard against her, crying into his hair. He remembered pressing his small body against hers as hard as he could, as if he could physically hold the pieces of her together with just the weight of his little frame. But here is what destroyed him completely. Diana died believing she had traumatized her son. She never knew that Harry had never once resented a single second of any of it. Not 1 second. He would have told her those evenings were not a burden. They were the most important moments of his life. But she died without ever knowing that, and hearing it now, all these years later, shattered him in a way nothing else ever had. Then Anne told him what Diana had said about William, and this was the part that reframed absolutely everything. Diana had watched her two boys fight their entire childhood. Furious, intense, physical fights. One argument over a baseball had been so explosive that Diana ran downstairs to call palace guards because she could not separate them herself. That fight left William with a broken lip. But Diana had noticed something that never once changed no matter how bad the fighting got. William always came back first. Always. He was always the first one to say, "I am sorry, Harry. We should not fight. We are brothers." He had been doing that since they were barely old enough to walk. Diana's one terrifying fear was that one day William might simply run out of the capacity to be the one who always came first. And if that day ever came, Harry, her fierce, stubborn, completely unbreakable Harry, would never go first himself. He simply did not have that in him. And the silence between them would grow into something vast and cold that neither of them could ever find their way back across. Then Anne described one specific night, and Harry went completely still on the phone. He had been very young, burning with fever at Kensington Palace. His small body shook so violently that the bed moved with him. Diana had sent for the doctor, but William did not wait for anyone. William climbed directly into Harry's bed and pulled his little brother hard against his chest. Harry's skin was scorching hot, but William held him tighter. He pressed his face right against Harry's ear and said in a fierce, low voice, "Stay with me. Just stay with me." He held Harry's burning, shaking body through the entire night without closing his eyes once. Diana stood in the doorway of that bedroom and watched her two boys, and understood in that moment exactly what they were to each other underneath everything. She wanted Harry to remember that night if the silence between them ever grew too wide. She wanted him to remember that William held him when he was burning and refused to let go even for 1 second. Then Anne moved to what Diana had said about Charles, and this was the part that left Harry unable to speak for a long time. Diana had seen clearly that Harry would go looking for his father one day. He would go searching for warmth, for a man who would look him in the eye and say, "I see exactly who you are, and I am proud of every single inch of it." But Diana already knew in 1997 that was never what Harry was going to find. He was going to search for his father and find a king instead. A man so completely hollowed out by duty, institution, and the relentless performance of royal life that he had nothing real left to give a son who needed something real more than he needed anything else in the world. Diana did not say it with bitterness. She said it with a grief that was almost unbearable to sit beside. She was standing in 1997, watching a future she could already see with devastating clarity, and she was heartbroken by every single detail of it. When Harry's voice finally came back after a long silence, it was completely destroyed. He asked Anne just one question: why did she wait so long? Why now, when it felt like the worst had already happened and every price had already been paid? Anne told him she had only been keeping her promise. Diana had been specific. Do not give him my words as comfort. Do not deliver them when life feels manageable. Give them to him when the palace has already tried to break him, and he is still standing on the other side of all of it. Because that is the only moment these words will land the way I need them to land. Anne had watched everything happen to Harry from a distance. She watched the courtroom battles, the visa hearings dragged through the national press. She watched his name stripped quietly from palace documents without a single conversation. She watched him sit across from Oprah Winfrey and say the things he said in front of 50 million people. She watched and she held Diana's words and waited. Before Anne could give Harry the final thing Diana said, she needed him to go back to who he actually was before the world got its hands on him. Diana had never forgotten a specific moment, sometime in the months before that final summer of 1997. Harry was 13 years old and pulled Diana aside very quietly and asked her something in a voice so careful it stopped her breathing completely. He asked her whether she thought the family actually loved her. Diana stood there and looked at her 13-year-old son and saw herself staring directly back. He already understood more about that family than men who had spent their entire lives inside it. And that, she told Anne, was not a gift. That was a wound that could never fully heal. Diana also told Anne about the hospice visits, the ones no camera ever caught. She used to take Harry specifically, just the two of them, no announcements, no press. The first time Harry was very young and terrified. He stood frozen in the doorway, unable to move. Diana did not pull him forward. She simply stood beside him and waited until he was ready. Halfway down the ward, a small girl sat up in her bed. She was 4 years old. She had AIDS. She looked up at Harry with enormous dark eyes and said absolutely nothing, just looked at him steadily, as if she had been waiting a long time for someone to finally look back. Diana placed Harry's hand gently onto the little girl's shoulder and whispered, "She needs every piece of love we can give her. It is okay to touch her. She will not break and neither will you." On the drive home, Diana told him, "Those are the people the world decided to forget. We do not forget them." Harry carried those words every single day for the rest of his life. They became the private language between the two of them, the shared understanding of what it truly meant to see someone the world had already turned its back on. Then there were the letters. Every single week without fail before Harry left for school, Diana wrote him a handwritten letter and tucked it carefully into his school bag. one every week across every single year. Nobody told her to do it. Nobody even knew it was happening. It was entirely between the two of them, and Harry has kept every single one. He has never shown them to a single person. Not William, not Megan, nobody. Then Anne told him the final thing, the thing Diana made her save until the very end. Diana was proud of Harry. Completely, unconditionally, overwhelmingly proud. She saw his fire, and she saw his faults, and she saw his enormous breaking heart, and she loved every single part of it without one condition attached. But Diana also said something that sat right beside that pride without canceling it. She hoped that, when Harry fought, he would fight with enough care not to destroy what could never be rebuilt. Because what she was most afraid of losing was not a title or a palace position. It was William. She could not bear the thought of her two boys becoming another story of a royal bond severed permanently by pride and pain. She told Anne that whatever happened, whatever Harry chose, and whatever it cost him, her one true hope was that he and William would find their way back to each other. Not for the palace, not for the public, just for themselves. For the two little boys who held each other's hands walking behind her coffin in front of the entire world. That, she said quietly, was the only thing that would give her complete peace. Harry sat with all of it, and his whole body shook. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely there. He said he could have used this years ago, that one sentence of it would have changed everything when he was at his lowest. Anne told him she knew, and she was sorry for every one of those years. But Diana made her swear. She made her promise to wait until the palace had already tried to break him, and he was still standing. She said that was the only moment these words would land the way she needed them to. Charles was at Balmoral in the summer of 1997. He was in the same building when Diana pulled Anne aside and said everything she said. He had access to every person Diana trusted and every conversation she ever had. He could have asked Anne at any point across 29 years what Diana said in those final weeks, and he never asked once. Anne made one phone call and gave Harry something his father had 29 years and every possible opportunity to give him, and never once reached for. In the summer of 1997, just before Diana ended that conversation at Balmoral, she looked directly at Anne and said something Anne never forgot for a single day. William would survive the palace. He was built for it. But Harry needed someone in his corner who would not let the institution crush him, and she needed Anne to promise that person would be her. Anne promised, and she kept that promise when it mattered most. Somewhere in California, Diana's youngest son sat with the full weight of everything his mother had seen in him, understood about him, and carried for him across 29 years, finally delivered, finally landed, finally his. His mother had always known exactly who he was. She had seen everything clearly and loved all of it without condition. And she had made absolutely certain that even from 29 years away, her words would find him at the exact moment he needed them most. That was not memory. That was not legacy. That was love that simply refused to end.